Welcome to another episode of No Ordinary Woman, where we recognise and celebrate women of all ages and all stages. I'm Fiona Briffa, and today I've got Brooke Hill joining me. Hi, Brooke.
Hi, Fiona. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm really looking forward to sharing your story with the viewers and focusing on your specifically the overcoming fear to write your book. Now, your book was kind of a passion right from when you were a little girl and you steered away from it for a really long time. Can you just talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So when I was a kid, writing and reading were just my greatest passions. So all I used to do, other kids were out playing, and I just used to sit in my little room, and we had an old typewriter, and I would just punch out stories. And eventually we got a computer. Yeah, that's showing my age. Eventually we got a computer, and then I was typing out on the computer. Yeah. And like Mum would ask me, Mum wanted to give me pocket money, and I said, I just want you to spend it on books. That's how much I just loved reading. I loved writing so much, and all I wanted to be was an author. Yeah. And I guess that desire to be an author always stayed with me. But when I hit my teens, as I think so many people do, I just wobbled and I just lost confidence. Like I used to go to writing camps and I'd enter competitions and all of these sort of things. And, maybe I didn't win there was no trigger point. It was maybe I didn't win a competition, or I don't know, but there was just this like gradual, I guess, self-consciousness that came up and up and up when I was a teenager. And I just never wrote. I stopped writing, and I never wrote, and I never shared anything with anyone. I can remember high school teachers, like my old English teacher, being like, Brooke, why aren't you writing? What, can I see what you've been writing? And I was like, no, been busy. Yeah. And I just kind of stopped. Mm-hmm. And that continued. Like occasionally I'd get little whispers of something and I'd write it down here and there, but that continued right up until, I guess, my late 20s. And I had, throughout my career, I ended up gravitating towards things that were writing. So I worked for magazines, I worked in brand marketing, and I always kind of gravitated towards things where I was writing. But it was easy to do that because it wasn't about me. Yeah, right. I could write for brands, I could write for businesses, I could write for all these other things, but I couldn't write anything that was actually meaningful to me personally. Yeah. And and I might start a story here or there, and I just wouldn't finish it. And I guess in terms of how then, I overcame that, it's been, and it's an ongoing thing. So what I should say is that there's no like ta-da moment where it's like, the big climax of hooray, I've thrown all those fears, behind me. Yeah. I still live with those fears every day, and I still struggle with them every day. Yeah. But it's a conscious, but I guess I'm more aware of it, and I guess I'm consciously choosing to step beyond that.
It's like, I know you're there, but I'm not going to let you stop me anymore.
Yeah.
It's like being friends with fear. It's like, just make radio, you're there, you're going to be with me anyway, you little bugger, but I'm just going to keep pushing through this. Just going back to the childhood and the processing, because I speak to a lot of people, and there are often moments where you can go back and talk to, young Brooke or young Fiona or whatever, and go, aha, there's some points where it's just broken down my either self-belief, or someone's told you that something's stupid, or somebody's told you can't do that. And then so it creates disempowering beliefs. But other times it's just a gentle, like, secret progression into diminishing your dreams and hopes, because we are what we are when we're born and when we're young. And you talk to any mother and go, keep a record of what your child is naturally doing and their natural state of being and their natural where they're gravitating towards, because later when life beats that out of them, because that's what it does, right? Then you can go back and remind them to make sure they can stick their path and go, this is what you used to love, this is who you used to were, and who you used to be. But going through yours, was it one point or just a gradual progression out of it into the, I don't want to write about it?
I've thought about this but I don't know if it might come to me because I'm notoriously forgetful. Ask my husband, like, yeah. But I feel like it was this natural progression, and I feel like I became kind of like hyper self-conscious when you become in high school, and you sort of, you want to blend in, you want to be the same, and you want to, you're so fearful of like being teased or what have you, and everybody, like, of course I was teased about this and that growing up, which everybody is. But I think that, there just became this like heightened awareness of what was going on. And that's the thing. So when you talk about, when you're a kid and you dream and all of that sort of stuff, this is something that I'm really fascinated with, and I'm starting to research a lot more into, is the idea that as a kid, you can have this imagination. And it's so wild and so vivid that just in a second you can, and I see it to my kids all the time, they can just disappear into themselves and into this world. And I want to nourish that. And that's actually my purpose. So I guess if we think about how I started to overcome some of this fear, it was starting to understand what my purpose is, and starting to feel more driven by that than I guess overwhelmed by the fear.
Yeah, right.
But so if I think about imagination, it's like, what happens when you become a teenager? What is that? And then continues on, because, as a teenager, you become self-conscious, you're finding out who you are, but that's through a really filtered lens of like what people think of you.
Yeah.
And then you start studying, and you're not judged on what you imagine or or that time spent kind of in your own head. You're judged on the essays that you produce and the tests that you sit.
Yeah.
And then you go through your 20s and you're in this career world, and again, you're not judged on the bad ideas that you had where you tried things and they didn't work. You're judged on the ones that worked and the results and the outputs. So there's this kind of constant, I guess, conditioning that we have to just sort of like stop that free, amazing, like dreaming thinking that used to happen naturally, and stay safe.
Yeah.
And it's easier to say safe.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I know that it's different for everybody, but there are a few key factors that go into abandoning our natural state of being and losing our hopes and dreams and passions, and just following either the status quo or the family business or the what is acceptable, or what, like just getting lost in that journey of life that gets you from childhood to adulthood, usually in those teen years, and the input that's creating the beliefs. But the creativity and the imagination, like, that's often not spoken about. And I really love that that's what your passion is, and that's what your purpose is reigniting that passion that imagination. And as I was reading through your bio, I was sort of thinking, it just reminded me of the Imaginarium. And I'm like, I just imagine that you've got an Imaginarium going on. So you are nurturing this in your kids, and you re-nurtured it back in yourself, right?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. So when I was in, I guess, my late 20s, I was working, heading up a brand marketing team. And as part of that, we had to do a couple of different leadership courses. And they were like completely life-changing for me, because one of them was about discovering your purpose and identifying what that was. And the other was about essentially letting go of fear and letting go of things like that hold you back, things like perfectionism and all those sorts of things. And the two combined were really powerful for me. So in terms of identifying my purpose, that's when, I did, you probably do this modeling all the time, your north and your south and your value, and you piece it all together. And that's when I kind of had this light bulb moment of like, oh my gosh, nourishing imaginations is something that I'm just so passionate about, because we talk about creativity, we talk about, empathy and all of these sorts of things, but imagination is like the key that helps you be creative. It's the key that helps you build empathy. It's the key that helps you have a vision as a leader. And so I was like, wow, okay, this is it. And then we sort of did some work on like, yeah, okay, letting go of your fears. And to be honest, they sort of still remained. And as the time went on, I actually went to a Business Chicks event called Wholehearted, running, and they had this amazing event which was all about like finding your purpose and living your purpose. And I realized, I was like, shit, I found my purpose, but I'm not really like, I'm talking the talk, but I'm not really walking.
I'm not doing it. I'm not
doing it, you know. And so that's when I'd had this idea for a book, and it was whirling around in my mind. I'd written the story, and then I'd kind of put it down. And I was like, this is it. I have to do this. I have to stop going, okay, this is my purpose, and this is, you know, I have to actually start living it and taking steps towards it. And so that's what I did. So I wrote the book and I made it happen, and I backed myself, and it's out there.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you're right, because waiting for something to be perfect is the biggest thing that holds most people back, because you're never going to get it perfect. We were just chatting off air before about you'll never do the things you want to do if you wait for the ducks to line up and go in a row. And speaking of Business Chicks, you know, Emma's book, Winging It, half of us don't know what we're doing. We're just making it up as we go along, but it's about just taking steps into your passions and purpose, and then getting it better and better as you go. So release the book. I mean, my first book has spelling errors. It has all sorts of stuff in it. But if I didn't just let it go, it would not be out there. So it's, I think it's really important. So tell us a little bit about your book. I mean, it's called You Too, You Too. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. And so this is kind of that, I guess, thinking about nourishing the imaginations of little ones. So it's a really fun celebration of all the crazy fun that two little siblings can get up together. So I wrote it when my youngest was 4 months old, and he was breastfeeding in the middle of the night, and literally the words just started appearing. And I find, weirdly, when I was in that complete sleep deprived state, it actually ended up being some of my most creative.
When you get out of
it. Because I think I was just so out of my head. And like, he was like, I still remember it, he was breastfeeding, and I had my phone like this. I was like typing out the story at 4 a.m. in the morning, and obviously
4 o'clock in the morning when you're sleep deprived.
Yeah, exactly. And so and so obviously I honed it since then, but I wanted something that was not necessarily instructive, like there's a new child coming along and this is how it's going to be. It was more like, this is all the fun and splendor and adventure and craziness that you two are going to have as mates. Because again, on that imagination, I kind of believe in the power of, I guess, manifestation. So it's like, if we keep reading this and if we keep like just talking about this, you know, positive fun, then maybe, just maybe, I mean, I know it's not going to be perfect, their relationship, but maybe it'll, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And kids are the best ones to learn from. And I love that about you, watching your kids, and what you mentioned in your bios is learning mostly from your kids. I remember taking my great niece, now talking about my age now, my great niece for a walk when she was about 1, and I just put her in the pusher and we went for a walk around, and I was just watching her. So I was going for the walk and looking through her eyes and looking at her fascination and awe and wonder with everything around her that she's seeing for the first time. And I'm just thinking, when did we lose that fascination and awe with the immense beauty all around us, and the leaves, and that's when I started coming up with my mindfulness walks, is going for a walk and looking through a child's eyes at the colors and touching things and picking things up, and just being fascinated with life. I think we've just got too busy and focused on outcomes that we're forgetting to live the journey and the moments.
Yeah,
and
100%.
And we get caught up in the fears and the what if it goes wrongs, and we're like, just do it.
Yeah, and how and why, and you know, as opposed to just seeing something and just wondering, like, you know, there's a technique that they use when you study art, and see, wonder, think, and it's like, let the wonder happen and then think about it later. Like, and if you can train yourself to just stop, and that's why kids are so amazing. Like, you just to carry on that idea of what happens next, like when they're in their own little imagination world, and you're like, okay, and then what happens? And then you just keep following it. And, it's like those old drama games you used to play if you ever did drama, like
adventure.
Yeah. And then what? And then what? And then and you just keep playing, kind of keep the thought alive, I think, keep the wondering alive.
I wonder too, like as you're saying that, and I think that this is something, and I know I said it at the beginning, but we don't talk enough about imagination, and imagination is the key to so many other things, and that wonder and that awe. I know that with personal development, and look, I mean, I'm a leadership coach and a life coach in personal development, but I sometimes think we've gone too far with it, that we get so caught up in the development that we forget, that we start to overanalyze everything and try to work everything out instead of just allowing it to be. And like you said, like observe, wonder, and then think. I think we're thinking even too much. And I mean, I know it's counter career-ish for me to say, I think we're overdoing personal development as well, and like not allowing ourselves just to be where we are.
Yes.
And be in awe of where we are and appreciate where we are right here and right now. And particularly for those of you watching, and I'll put my own hand up, that are like very high achievers, that we're constantly, our head is so far ahead in the next goal and the next achievement that we forget to celebrate today and what we've already done and where we are right now. And I think that the imagination and awe and wonder comes into our moments.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And like, I struggle from exactly the same thing, because I'm always focused. I'm super goal orientated. I'm always focused on the next thing.
Yeah.
I very rarely, like my husband said to me just today, he's like, that's amazing, when I told him about, something that had happened with the book. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Next, like already on to the next. Oh. But if you, I like what I'm like trying to cultivate, and I guess when I'm on, my next book might not be for kids. My next book may well be on this very topic. Is like, what are the techniques? How can we re-engage that part of the brain? And one of the first steps to it is switching off that other part of the brain. I don't know if we can re-engage that imagination, that creative side of the brain, before we can really practice to switch off that judgmental part of the brain, which plays a really important role.
Yes, absolutely.
It's the rational bit that judges situations as to whether they're going to be right or wrong. But it also can, have that.
It's developing the strengths in there. It's like our negativity bias and our positivity bias. Like whichever one gets the most energy wins. It tends to be the strongest. So if we're constantly in our analytical brain and our judging and critical brain, then we're strengthening our creative side. So I think that's a really good message for everybody. Is and it does seem to be, it's not something that just happens. It's what's called intentional living, isn't it? It's about waking up and deciding, how do I want to spend today? How much energy am I going to give this? How much energy am I going to give that? But at the same time, trying to create that harmony of not over-analyzing and over-planning, so that you just be there. And it is really difficult to find. And I don't think it's something you can achieve, because it's like balance. Like, that's just a word that don't even try to achieve that, because it never happens. But it's about finding harmony in your day. I think harmony is a good word to replace balance. Is the harmony of today, and what harmony of today looks like is different to tomorrow. You might need to be more analytical and critical tomorrow, but make sure it's not then overtaking you and you're missing out on the creative. I did a video during lockdown last year, did a video. I just decided, I went on my social media platform and just decided to do Fun Friday, just to get everybody's heads out of where we were. And I would just do stupid things on a Friday. And one Friday I went to the playground and I went, what happened? Because just what you were saying, where did our imagination go? Where did our want to play? And then we get embarrassed. I went to the playground and I went down the slides and I went on the swings, and I asked I did it live and said, what do you want me to do next? And they're all telling me what to do.
That's so good.
So much freaking fun. It was just outrageous. And I didn't care what people thought. I didn't care about anything. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I put the challenge out there to go, right, I want everybody to go to the playground and send photos in of you on the swings or going down the slide. And everyone was sending photos in, and it just became a really amazing, fun Friday thing. But it speaks to what you're passionate about, and what you're doing is like, bring back the imagination, bring back that, unleash your inner child, and just take some time out. You need to take time out to do it though, don't you?
Yes. Well, yeah, yes and no. Like, I mean, I guess it's a bit like mindfulness in the sense that, like, look, and a wonderful mindfulness practice would be to wake every morning and, spend 20 minutes or half an hour, longer, and doing that every day. And likewise, it would be so great if we could just spend, time writing or, doing some kind of activity, or like you say, walking and imagining or what have you. But, I think also it's just about taking the little moments, like sometimes, like when I drive, like I love a podcast and I always have like them backed up. Okay, this is all what I want. And sometimes I just turn it off and I just drive and, and I just look out and I look at the clouds and I look at the trees and, I mean, this doesn't work when you're driving in metropolitan, Sydney or Melbourne, but, if you drive, like we live in the country now. So, so it might be just doing little things like that, or, like when you're just sitting outside and your kids are just playing around, just lie down on the ground with them and look up.
Yeah.
Because we spend so much time like looking down at them and like being that protector, carer, all of those sorts of things. Whereas if you just lie on your back and they freaking love it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And you also just get a different perspective. It's just changing it up. And you don't have to have kids to do that, actually. You can just lie on the ground. When you're having a picnic, you just lie on the ground and look up.
That just reminded me, when I was a kid, we had a trampoline out the back, and I used to lie on the trampoline and look at the clouds and make things out of the shapes of the clouds.
Yeah.
Imagination.
There's nothing stopping you doing it now.
Yeah. I love that. I do mindfulness putting the washing out.
Yes, perfect. Exactly.
So just going and then putting the basket away so that I've got to walk backwards and forwards to it, and I just enjoy. I feel the breeze, I look at the sky, and I love hanging the washing out because it gets me outside and out of the house. And so you can bring it into moments. It's like, that's a really good point that you made. You don't actually have to take time out to do it. You can bring it into your moments that you're doing. Totally. Yeah, great point.
100%. Love that. I love that with the washing.
Yeah, mindfulness washing, mindfulness dishes. Turn anything into fun.
Exactly. No, I love it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So your book, I just want to let the viewers know I will leave the links to Brooke's book and her business in the comment section. But this has really been, for those of you watching, it's the message is, don't let fear stop you from connecting to your passions. And fear is not something you necessarily overcome, but you kind of make friends with and do stuff in spite of, and kind of use it as fuel to drive you. But be more focused on your why than you are on the how and the the details of it. Be more focused on that and just keep pressing towards that part of your passion, and the fear kind of then falls into the background, doesn't it? Because you're then in your moments.
Yes, 100%. And I read something the other day which I thought was really powerful when it came to being stuck or feeling that fear or what have you, because it is just about taking steps forward regardless. And what this person said, Lorraine Murphy, she said, what's 3 things that you can do? Like, so whenever you're feeling afraid or stuck, you just go, what's three could be tiny little things that you can do. It might be just putting a social post up, or like responding to somebody who, which would take you into a different direction. What's 3 little things that you can do right now that will help you move forward? And I think that's how I'm continuing to move past that. I guess that fear is knowing that it's not going to be perfect. And the more you push through perfectionism, the easier it gets. And then and just to keep taking steps forward. Because otherwise you stay stuck.
Yeah, that's a perfect message. And that's the thing. Fear will hold you back. Perfectionism will hold you back. It's about releasing the need to please anybody, to be perfect. And let's all just show up as our imperfect, vulnerable, having a crack at it selves. And the more of us that show up as that, the more other people will join the party and feel more comfortable. And if you're watching and thinking that there's something that you've wanted to do, but you've been too scared to, and you go, oh, but Brooke has got this and these skills and Fiona's got that. No, we are packing ourselves half the time and we have no idea what we're doing most of the time. We're just showing up and taking one step at a time. And so I love that you've said that. Just ask yourself, what's 3 things you can do today to take a step forward? And before you know it, you'll have your book, you'll have your business, you'll have your hobby, you'll have whatever it is that you've been dreaming of. And another thing that I'll leave you with watching is to go back and revisit young you. What did young you love? What was young you passionate about? What did young you think you were going to be when you grew up? And go back and have a discussion with her about that and go, what do I need to reignite now to maybe see if that's still a thing? Because some things might not be, and that's okay, but let's see if that's still a thing and honor that little girl's dreams and maybe start bringing them back to life again.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, Brooke,
did so well. Thank you so much.
You've inspired me as well. Like I'm now my brain is going with all these little nuggets of gold that you've just given to us. And I just thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your vulnerability, and hopefully women out there are watching going, right, I'm going to have a crack. I'm going to overcome my fear and I'm going to do it. I will leave the link to Brooke's book, You Too, and Brooke's business if you'd like to learn more about her and her social pages. But thank you so much for sharing with us today, Brooke.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been such a lovely time.
It has been a pleasure for us as well. And thank you for watching. And we look forward to seeing you next time for another episode of No Ordinary Woman. Bye for now.